Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results, a weekly live show where I speak with an expert in the subject of mindset so you can change your mindset and ultimately get the amazing results that you want in your life. I'm so pleased to be welcoming Val to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate your time and having me here.
Awesome. Well, you guys are going to love this. If we haven't met before, my name's Leah Fink. I'm the owner and founder of All Thrive, and I help protect people from the pain of damaged relationships. If you want to know more about that, please connect with me because I would love to chat. However, you're not here for my expertise alone today. You're here for Val's. So please do feel free to comment and question, even if you're watching this after the fact. If you put those questions in, we can make sure to get back to you and get you the information you're looking for. So without any further ado, let's dive right in here. Val, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started with motivational missions and youth empowerment?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started back in 2012. My business partners and myself actually went to Belize, and we were in Belize and speaking to an insurance company because our for-profit company actually does motivation, empowerment, and seminars. And we were there and got invited to speak to some children just because it was an opportunity and we took it. And we realized that it was a lot of fun and we wanted to start giving back to kids. So we opened up what we called motivational missions, where we basically do seminars all around the world teaching kids empowerment. And a couple years later, we actually were on the board of the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. And there was a presentation there from somebody from Homeland Security. And they were talking about human trafficking and how prevalent it is, and we didn't realize it was, and that the primary victims are 12 to 14-year-olds, which is the target of the kids that we normally speak to with motivational missions. And so after the presentation, we went up to the agent and we asked him, who's telling the kids about this? Because you're talking to adults, but who's telling the kids in their language how to prevent this, how to protect themselves? And he said nobody was. So we added social awareness or awareness of social issues to motivational missions. So now what we do is we not only teach kids empowerment and leadership, but we also teach them about various social issues like human trafficking, bullying, and sexual assault. Because we put them together though, because if you learn how to lead your own life, if you become empowered, you're much less likely to be a victim.
Well, I'm 100% with everything you say. This is one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on the show is for an alignment of values. I've been working with youth and personal development for a lot of years since I got it as a teen. And that was really impactful for me. So I can't imagine, the number of youth now that you've been able to give not just this gift of personal development, but also literally like their safety, their lives and futures depend on that so much. So I just love what you guys are doing.
Thank you. We do too. It is, even though we're talking about some serious issues, it's just so much fun to be able to connect with these kids and to be able to see how much potential they have. And when they realize themselves that they have this potential, it's just like a magic moment. So
Well, particularly that age range, it's one of my favorites as well, is like that 14-ish, because it's at that point where they've just started kind of developing that separate from my parents' identity and maybe having gotten so entrenched in the high school and some of the stressors that come with that. So it's such a cool age to work with.
yes, definitely. It's the age where they're starting to realize they can do different things on their own, but they're still not to the point where they know everything necessarily. So they're open to learning, and
Totally.
it's just a lot of fun.
Well, I fully agree. And, you're tackling a particular piece with this too, which is one that I've worked with less, which I would love to hear more about. And that's specifically youth in the digital age. So, not just the awareness of human trafficking, a lot of that happens through online sources, but a general way of how we connect. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, it's technology in general is one of my passions. I studied computer science back when I was in college, and so technology has always been one of my passions, and I truly believe that technology is here to make the world better. But unfortunately, a lot of people are also using it for nefarious purposes. A lot of victims nowadays are being lured through online technologies, and so we need to teach our children how to protect themselves online. One of the things that we teach them is, how to use social media, but also to check your privacy settings, how to not post anything that you don't want, your grandmother or an employer 10 years later finding, and things like that, and we talk about how we're members of the South Florida Human Trafficking Prevention. And in that organization, we get to meet a lot of different people. And one of them, we met an attorney, a state attorney from Florida, who said that traffickers and things are actually using Snapchat and these different softwares that say, oh, the things disappear in 30 seconds. They figured out a way to actually hack them, send these pictures back to these young children and say, we're going to send this to your parents if you don't do what we want you to do. So we're teaching the kids that even though it disappears, it doesn't really disappear. So be careful with what you send. And also, unfortunately, there's a lot of laws out there regarding child pornography. And if you send a picture of yourself naked and you are under the age, you are technically sending child pornography and can get in trouble for it.
That unfortunately is a law that I don't think serves us very well in that situation. And
yes,
I'm thinking both the importance of, obviously, like, you guys talking to kids are where this needs to come from. It's nice to hear it from someone other than a parent. But I'll also encourage, for anyone who is watching today, who either has young people, maybe not even their own kids, but young people in their lives, that they're opening up these discussions a little bit, not just saying, no, but kind of that curiosity around, like, what is happening? Why is this important to you? Do you understand? Like, what's your understanding of these kinds of pieces? Because it is, I think, a lot of youth, unfortunately, they're learning from their peers, and their peers say, well, yeah, of course, Snapchat disappears in however many seconds, and so it's safe.
Right, exactly. And that is why we started Motivational Missions, was because we have the ability, thankfully, with Bert Oliva, who is an internationally known speaker and trainer. He has this ability to be able to speak to children in their language. So in these events, what we do is we combine it with music that they like, with videos that speak to them. And then we have Bert, who really gets them empowered and motivated, but he's not talking as an adult to them. He's talking as a peer. And that really seems to help. And usually, almost at every single event, we have children that come up to us afterwards, either asking for help for themselves or having, knowing somebody that needs help, etc. So we always make sure that we have the information for the local organization that's helping with human trafficking there, or whatever the problem is, and make sure to give them the right information, and of course get them to where they need to be.
Well, that's a fantastic resource. And for anyone watching, because obviously you might not be able to speak to every single group of youth in internationally ever, but if someone did have a question for you, is that they go to the website and they can reach out and ask for those kinds of resources in whatever area they're in?
You can definitely go to our website, mmtour.org. There's actually resources. There's a whole resource page there that gives you different links. If you're looking for one of the best resources, there's polaris.org, which is one of the biggest NGOs helping to compile resources for human trafficking. And there they can specifically direct you to your country's organization or whomever that can help you. But you can always reach out directly to us, and we will definitely get you to where you need to be.
Well, that's fantastic. And thank you for that, because it is absolutely critical. And Matt, there's so many places I want to go with this topic, but just in general, if you do have youth who are watching this, or parents who are talking to their youth, do you have a couple quick tips that you'd like to share about the very basic things to always keep in mind?
The basic things to keep in mind really is, unfortunately, and this is, I don't want people to think this, but unfortunately, this can happen. This can happen to anybody. In fact, a large percentage of victims end up being community kids. So these are not kids that have run away from home. These are not kids that are, in foster care, or any of the kind of at-risk youth that we tend to think of. So unfortunately, this could happen to your child, to you, to a friend of yours. It's possible. So I don't want you to think of yourself as a possible victim, but I want you to just be aware. And that's why when we do this, that's what we're teaching you, is to start noticing and just open up those spidey senses, because thankfully these traffickers are cowards. So they're going to go with the victims that are the easiest to get. So if you're aware, if you are confident, if you're willing to ask questions, you will less likely become a victim. But basically, anybody that just kind of gives you a vibe, listen to your vibe, because things happen. And so when things sound too good to be true, a lot of times they are. You know, a lot of the scams are like the modeling scams, things like that. Somebody sends you a link saying, "Hey, you're beautiful. I want you to come and let me take some pictures of you and I want you to become a model." Have your parents check that one out before you go. That is one of the ways that a lot of kids are falling into this.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really excited to talk with you about, and I think what we'll transition into here, is not just, telling kids this awareness, but also some of the underlying factors that might cause someone to be really tempted by
Yes.
a stranger saying, "Oh, you're so pretty or handsome, and that's why we want to do this." And how would you define youth empowerment in general?
So youth empowerment, really, I mean, it's just empowerment. In general, in today's world, we're lacking that a little bit. At least I think so. We're so bombarded with being able to hear news and everything right away. And our news, unfortunately, focuses on the negative. And everything out there seems to be focused on the negative. You know, every time you turn on the TV, there's another school shooting. And I'm not saying that shootings are not horrible, horrible events, but we're focusing on that rather than the positive things that are happening in our world. And so empowerment is about realizing that we're not stuck with the hands that we've been dealt. We do have the ability to keep moving and to move forward. We just need to know what steps we can take and how we can tap into our own personal power and our own potential that's already within our own minds.
I love that definition. That's really beautiful. It really brings to mind for me one of the modalities I used in an addiction program I worked with youth was called the Circle of Courage. And it's a fantastic modality, but it supposes that people have four core needs, and especially working with youth, the belonging, mastery, independence, and generosity. So belonging, first of all, I think is very, inherent in your program because you're talking about that connection. But mastery, and with what you're talking about, is really the one that I'm thinking, that sense that a lot of youth might be struggling with right now, that they have control over their life, that they can achieve things. And, one of the things I like about Bert and his speaking is I think he also really focuses on that. So I could imagine that would be a really important piece for those youth to get this sense of, I can actually achieve something that I put my mind to in my life.
That's 100% what this is all about. You know, it's all about you can achieve what you set your mind to. And it's not just, I don't know, when I was a kid, I was told you can be anything you want to be. Everybody can achieve anything. You can be the president if you want to be. And I always was like, okay, yeah, maybe I can, but how? Nobody ever told me how. And so this is more about how you get to where you want to be. Okay, so you want to, become a millionaire. Well, then you want to focus on first becoming a thousandaire, as Bert teaches. You break it down into smaller steps so that you can get there and it is achievable.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of big dreams is great, but if it seems like a really big, super impossible dream, no one's going to go for it. They're going to be daunted and terrified and go, "There's no way I'm going to ever become a millionaire." So that step piece
Right.
is really critical. Do you find that there's other kind of consistent themes that you're seeing that really are maybe limiting youth in reaching for those bigger dreams or their ambitions?
A lot of times children in general, and I would venture to say even adults a lot of times are, oh, it doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. What I do doesn't matter. there's so many other people out there. Why does it matter if I stand up for this, or if I say something, or if I do something? And it's about learning that we all have that power. And by coming together as a community, we can make a difference, but you have to start with yourself. So if you realize that everybody is thinking the same way, then of course nothing's changing. So you want to learn how to be in charge of your own life. And so, yeah, basically it's that I can't make a difference. And no matter what, you really can. You just have to believe it and actually then take that responsibility.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And it also brings to mind this idea of how, if there are, for example, parents or mentors watching this, how they can be fostering that experience or that belief for youth by giving them, manageable pieces that they can accomplish by asking them now these steps that they've learned of what they want to do and how they can help them find success in that. Not, just a parent also saying, yay, like cheerleaders are great to say, yes, you can achieve your dreams, but you need that person who's actually reaffirming and solidifying these messages.
Yes, and also holding you accountable, I think, is another vital piece. But yeah, it's something that we all need to learn, and I wish I had learned it at a younger age, which is one of the reasons I think I'm so passionate about helping our youth learn it. I myself, I don't have children, so it's not, that I'm doing this specifically with my kids. I truly believe, as cheesy as it sounds, the children of the world are our future. They are going to be leading the world in just a few years, truthfully. Before you know it, they'll be on top. They'll be the ones making decisions and driving things. And if we don't help them realize that they have this ability and they have the ability to really learn and tap into themselves and make the world better, it's just gonna stay where it is, or it's gonna get worse.
Yeah. Well, from someone who did have these opportunities as youth, I want to reaffirm, yes, it's super important. It made such a difference in my life. I know you're making a difference in the lives of all of these youth. And, just with what we've talked about as well, thinking about these youth going into their future, and especially with the state of a lot of things today, that sense of powerlessness can be absolutely crushing. It can make such a huge impact when you're like, oh well, there's this political state I can't change and the environment I can't change, versus having people who are really embracing and saying, no, we can do something about this because we're going to start taking these steps.
Yeah. That's actually why one of the things that we're doing is we're in the process of developing a program called Under 21, where it's positive news for kids by kids, or for youth by youth. And so basically the idea is having young adults age 21 or under helping to create a whole newscast specifically for them. And it's, yes, it's going to be about current events and things like that, but with a more positive spin. But we're also going to be including motivation, empowerment, leadership. And we've partnered with BOA Studios. So we're going to actually bring the kids in as interns, and they're going to learn the whole aspect of everything having to do with video, how to put it together, a program, and basically how to do it themselves. So not only are they going to be able to learn some really great skills with video broadcasting, but they're also going to learn how their voice can make a difference.
Well, that is super cool. I can't imagine being a kid getting that opportunity to go and, make this whole broadcast and, this piece to positivity, because I know there's a lot of positivity on the world, and some of it gets toxic, as in, be happy no matter what and don't think about the negative things at all. And what I like about the idea of this news channel is, our brains have a negativity bias, right? It takes about 8 positive things to counter one negative thing, 'cause it's survival instincts that unfortunately aren't always serving us so well anymore. And just to have news and it's so true. It's, I don't have any tigers in my house, so I don't need the negativity bias that the bush is rustling and something's going to kill me, but it's still there. So the idea of taking news, which is important for youth to know, they want to be aware of the world. I think youth are actually quite aware of the world now with social media, with all the time they spend online. but to be able to also share, the good in the world, the viewpoints that are helping maybe in bad situations and who's doing that. So just, yeah, a huge kudos really to be putting that out there in such a healthy way.
Yeah, that's the idea, and we this idea came about when the pandemic was really going on and everybody was more disconnected and things weren't happening, and we had to wait, unfortunately, till we started opening again so that we can now start bringing in the kids locally, but, we're hopefully going to be launching that very soon, and we're excited about it. We think that it will be just a fun project, but it will also, I think, really help to make a difference.
Totally. Well, I'm wondering with this as well, because you are bringing these youth in for such a unique experience. Are you also, through your programs or through this, talking a little bit about that critical thinking piece of media literacy? Because when I think also of youth getting news, it's also going to depend where they are in the world, what news source it's coming from, like how to look at maybe 5 different news sources that somehow all report an event differently, or a person, they represent them very differently. And, for youth to have that skill to be able to question it and say, well, where is the truth in all of these different viewpoints? Is that something you guys work on?
Absolutely. It's one of the things nowadays that everybody is falling victim to is like the headline thinking, where you see a headline, you just read the headline, you believe it's true, and you know everything you need to know about the topic. And that's not the case. So definitely part of the development of the stories that the young adults will be developing is, of course, you need to show different sources, you need to fact check, you need to, think about it and see what are the different viewpoints of things, not just take one source, take it verbatim and, plagiarize it, which you will also learn what plagiarism is if you don't know.
Mm.
So things like that. It definitely is about developing the critical thinking, which I think is vital for our world. And I think we're lacking in a lot of places right now.
I I 100% agree. I just want to take a sec to say thanks for joining us, Bert. Bert's a former guest on the show, obviously one of your close friends and coworkers. So really glad he's enjoying the session. Um, I also want to say, I think too, one piece of critical thinking that relates really nicely to the rest of the youth empowerment is, like you said, it's hard to critically think and maybe stand up if a group of people have a strong opinion, like maybe one of those news sources that they really are believing in, and to have a voice and the confidence to say, this is my opinion, or I'm not willing to follow the group of people on a topic. That's a huge part of critical thinking as well, is just that confidence piece.
Absolutely. It's 100% part of it. In fact, one of the other social issues that we teach on is bullying. And really, if you think about it, when you're working with peer pressure and you've got a group of people, they believe one thing, you believe something else, and you don't want to say it, it really is a form of bullying in a way. You're allowing yourself to be bullied. And so we teach children how to start feeling confident and feeling better about themselves so they're less likely to be bullied as well, and being willing to, you know what, I am different, but I believe this. And before you know it, you'll have a bunch of other people standing up behind you. You just needed to be the first one to do it.
Yeah. Which is scary and takes that confidence, but is so rewarding.
100%, 100%. And it's one of those things that me as an adult, I have not mastered that at all, and I fully admit it. But it's something you got to work on every day, right? You got to work on being confident in yourself and being willing to state what you believe.
I just completely agree with you. I'm wondering if you have a particular, success story or outcome that you've really seen in the communities that you've been working with that you'd like to share.
Thankfully, since we started, social media was always part of it, and it's become stronger and stronger, obviously, as social media has become even more powerful. But we still have children from back, they're not children anymore, but back from 2012 who, have reached out to us, and they've done different things. And one of the things that Bert teaches is he uses breakthroughs in his events. So he'll have people do things like walk on glass, eat fire, because, if you're able to do something like that, what can you not do? And we still have these, what were children, they're now, young adults, not even necessarily young anymore, they're adults, who send us pictures of their glass and things like that, saying, you know, I did this, and because I did this, I'm able to do this. We have a lot of different people who have, like, they've started their own businesses. They graduated when they didn't think they were going to graduate. We had one who he became a cyclist and won a bunch of races. We've had a lot of really very cool things happen, and it always is so neat to have them come back and just talk about what they've done and what, you know, what they've seen and different things like that. And, you know, we've also, on the human trafficking side, we've helped different victims get to help as well. You know, we had one child in Trinidad who reached out to us on social media saying he wanted to commit suicide. And he very quickly disabled his account. And so thankfully, our team was able to grab a screenshot of him, reach out to our liaison there, who reached out to the security of that school and was able to find him, send somebody there and actually help him, keep him from doing that, and actually get him the help that he needed. And as far as I know, I think he's doing very well now. So, and we've had, you know, victims reach out to us and we've helped them get to different things. We saved some girls up in Orlando. We helped them get out of some not nice situations. So it's been a lot of different things, but it's just, it takes a community to do everything that we do. And we're just so grateful to be a part of it. And thankfully, I'm very grateful that for the most part, we work on the prevention side. So there's a lot of organizations out there that focus on the victims and helping people after the fact. But I truly believe, and we truly believe, that if we help people become more empowered and more just leaders in their own lives, they'll be less likely to become victims. And by doing that, we thankfully get to focus more on the positive aspects rather than the negative outcome of victims.
Yeah. Well, you know, that is absolutely amazing to hear some of those stories, and, you know, very close to my heart in multiple ways, but especially I think it's very hard sometimes for people to focus on the proactive, right? It's easier to see problems once they come up. And, you know, in terms of just absolutely net benefit everywhere, proactive is what we need to be doing, right? In terms of alerting kids so they don't fall into these places, empowering kids so they can face their life with more confidence. It's much harder to do reactively when stuff's gone in that bad direction, and it's much more expensive for everyone. It's much more, you know, draining. It leads to much worse results. So, you know, from you, hopefully, to everyone watching out there, that they're saying, okay, like, put that effort in, and for yourself as well, for that matter, proactive everything, right? Put the effort in to do this work for yourself now. But it's just so critical.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, one of the things, you know, we're asked all the time when we talk to people about what we do, they talk about how, well, okay, great, but how does that affect me? You know, I don't have any children. I don't even have any nieces or nephews. Like, what do I need to worry about this? And, you know, why do I care? And the whole thing is, it does affect you. I mean, just if you want to talk on a financial level, you know, the various governments, wherever you're living, they are putting resources into helping victims, to helping, you know, people that are having problems. So if we're able to teach people how to help themselves, there will be less of a financial burden, less of your taxes, basically, if you want to break it down to that level, you know. And then if you want to talk about the much more important level, in my opinion, just on a human to human level, if we're not helping people out, if we're all coming down, our energy is being sapped, and we just have more negativity around us, and we're not going to be able to do what needs to be done because everybody is stuck in, I don't even know what the right word is, but we're just stuck.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And I love that I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, it's not my problem. I don't have kids. It's not my problem. And, you know, like you said, even if it's just starting with this idea of ultimately as a taxpayer, it's better for you. But really that human level of, we can all have empathy. We all want, you know, to be treated well by the people around us, and care about and have this really brighter future, brighter, happier future. So
yeah, I mean,
unfortunately, go ahead.
Oh, just basically, you know, that whole saying that no man's an island, we aren't. We're all interconnected. So we want to make sure that we're all growing up, not down.
Totally. Well, I think unfortunately we do have to start wrapping up here. The time has absolutely flown. But you had a little bit of a gift that you want to leave people with as well. Do you want to explain that?
Absolutely. So we created it's just a one page, or it might be 2 pages of a small little info sheet that explains 21 apps that are out on various smartphones that traffickers use to get in contact with children specifically, and youth. And so this is, these apps in and of themselves are not dangerous, but these are apps that you should become aware of. So a lot of times when we're talking with parents, they don't even really know what their children are doing on their smartphones. So you might want to learn what these apps are, check out the icons on there, and at least, if you see them on your kids' phones, you can ask them about it, see what they're using it for, etc., and just making sure they're safe on them.
Awesome. Well, I would think that would be a great way to start a conversation with the youth as well. Like you said, teaching the youth, here's the sheet. Hey, honey, do you have any of these apps? Like, let's talk about how they could be used. So
right.
It's a fantastic resource. It's in the description. I hope people reach out and use that shirt with all your friends, because it is absolutely important. And thank you for coming on today and sharing, this really critical message with people to keep youth safe and to really have that bright future that we're looking for.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for joining us and watching. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, every thought counts.